So now we're going to dive into product definition, or defining the product, which is the first item in that cycle of product management execution. So imagine, you are first, you're first initially into your product management role, and your boss will, comes to you and then says, you know what, we are now actively looking at how and what our next product is going to be. And so why don't you spend some time in coming up with a very preliminary definition of the product, and then we'll talk about it. So now you have that task. So what will you do? Are you going to go to a customer website, a competition website, or do an internet research as to what your next product is going to be? Or talk to your company product manager who has already been doing this sort of thing before? Maybe you should do all of these things. And in any case, when you get into this role, you probably know already what your company's products are and what in general is the company's strategy is. And obviously during the either interview process or getting you up to speed into this role, people must have told you about what the goal and the target of the company product roadmap is, and so on and so forth. That's all fine. But in general, what is the real essence behind why your boss, when she asked you to start putting together a preliminary product definition, it very well likely be this, that she probably has already talked and got opinions from very number of people inside the company, any number of inside people, about their opinions about what the next product should be and what they should do and when and so forth. And what she is really looking for is she's looking for a fresh perspective from you. She wants a fresh pair of eyes to take a sort of an outside look into, or a new look into this product roadmap or product itself, product direction itself. And she wants to know your independent opinion. The reason why I make this long belabored point about independent opinion is this: it is a very important skill as a product manager that you maintain and keep this fresh pair of eyes attitude in the company. Because number one, companies are always the teams are always working together, and they know very well what their strengths and weaknesses are, and they have been working with their customers for a long time. And so it gets to be an issue that they kind of go write themselves into a groupthink type of an attitude. And good senior managers always are looking for a fresh perspective, and if you can maintain that as a product manager, you are going to make yourself very useful to the company, and also help the company to rise above the din, so to speak. And you'll be very surprised how some of the technology companies, they become so inward looking because either they are so busy attending to their current customer requests or current business, that it becomes very harder for somebody to put their head up and look at the outside world and see where the market is going, where the big trends are, what the future is going to look like, and into the ability to connect one trend to our own or your own company's product strategy or market trend into your own market strategy is a very valuable skill. So the point is that keeping that independent opinion ability, so to speak, is a very critical skill that you as a product manager must never lose and must always try to retain it. It is a very hard skill to maintain it, that independence of opinion, not because it reflects on one's character or anything, but it's just because you become so involved in the team and in the company that it becomes harder to put your head up and look outside once in a while. And so let's go back to the product definition task itself. When I was an engineer way back when, my world had begun with a product specification. The product specification was something that was handed to me by my boss. And if you read the spec and if you understood what your task is, then you have all the answers in the spec itself. Now your task is to implement that spec and basically give back the deliverables to your boss or whoever it is in charge of the development. Now, product marketing or a product management is the world which is everything that comes before a product spec. And by that, what I mean is product management, the world of product management is full of questions. As much as we'd like to think or we experienced when we were back in engineering phase, a spec is full of answers, so to speak. In other words, if we don't find an answer in the spec, we will find that spec to be incomplete. So, spec has to be by nature, by design. So we're used to that kind of a thinking. But if you are an engineer and if you're shifting to product marketing, the mindset has to change, because in the product management world, everything starts with a question. Like the question that I just posed is, what product are you going to define for your company and why you are going to define that product? So now let's get to specifics. When it comes to defining the product, once again, you're going to ask 3 questions to start with. When your boss gives you that task and then when she says, look, come back to me in 2 weeks or 1 week or 10 days or what have you with your ideas, how do you start? You will start. It is always helpful. You will never go wrong if you start with these questions. Write down these 3 questions in your notes and start pounding pretty much everybody in the company and talking to them and trying to find the answers to these questions at a first order of things. Number one question is, what customer problem does this product solve? Imagine that you're going to define your next product at a high level. You always want to look for what problem it is solving. And number 2 is, it will be most likely in most cases that your company already has a well articulated product strategy or a company strategy and a company vision. And so the second question you want to ask is, does this product fit into that overall strategy and vision? It has to be very specific in answering these questions, right? And the third question is, let's say you answered yes and yes to first 1 and 2. Does this product solve a customer problem? And second is, does this fit into company's vision and strategy and the roadmap, so forth? If you answered yes to these 2 questions, then you are allowed to, and then you are at a liberty to ask the third question. Can you make a justifiable business case that you should develop this product? In other words, if you're asking the company to invest money and resources in developing this product, do you have a business case? Are you able to show a justifiable return on investment? And when your company does follow your advice and then goes on to develop the product. So these 3 questions are critical questions that will always, every other investigation that you will do going forward always will map itself back into these 3 questions. So it is always helpful if you start off with these questions, big questions in your mind.